When the FBI raids the wrong house, a Supreme Court story. Imagine this nightmare. You're sleeping peacefully in your own home. Suddenly, a massive explosion tears through your house. Smoke fills every room. Armed strangers in black tactical gear storm through your doors, screaming commands. They're pointing guns at you, at your partner, at your child. They drag you out of bed, half naked, terrified, not understanding what's happening. Then, hours later, you discover the horrible truth. None of this was supposed to happen to you. The FBI got the wrong house. They meant to raid someone else 3 doors down. But here's where it gets worse. When you try to hold someone accountable, the government says you can't even challenge what happened. They claim their agents had complete discretion in planning the raid, and that includes the discretion to get it catastrophically wrong. Sound like something that could never happen in America? It already did. And it took a unanimous Supreme Court decision to say that's not acceptable. The Martin family's nightmare. Let me tell you about Katrina Martin and her family. They lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood outside Atlanta, Georgia. It was 2017, and they had no idea their lives were about to be turned upside down. Early one morning, before the sun came up, Katrina was home with her boyfriend and their 7-year-old son. They were sleeping, normal people living normal lives. Suddenly, their front door exploded. Flashbang grenades went off inside their home. Armed FBI agents swarmed into every room. The noise was deafening. The smoke made it impossible to see or breathe. Katrina and her boyfriend, terrified and confused, grabbed a shotgun and hid in a closet. They had no idea who was attacking their home. For all they knew, these could be violent criminals breaking in to hurt them. The FBI agents found them, weapons drawn. They screamed at Katrina and her boyfriend to drop the gun. They handcuffed them both. They dragged Katrina out half-dressed while her young son watched in terror. The agents detained the entire family at gunpoint. Then came the moment that changed everything. One of the FBI agents happened to glance at the coffee table. He saw some mail sitting there. He picked it up and looked at the address. It was the wrong house. They had just terrorized a completely innocent family. The FBI had meant to raid a house 3 doors down where they believed gang members were hiding. But they got the address wrong. Completely wrong. How did this happen? Here's the shocking part. The FBI special agent in charge of planning this raid didn't double-check the address. Instead of verifying the location through official channels, he just used his personal GPS on his phone to navigate there in the dark. The GPS sent him to the wrong house, and he didn't catch the mistake. The FBI later claimed they didn't have time to verify the address. They said the house numbers weren't visible from the street. They said they couldn't check the mailbox because they needed to maintain the element of surprise. But they had done surveillance on the area before the raid. They could have taken a few extra minutes to make absolutely sure they were raiding the right home. They didn't, and an innocent family paid the price, fighting for justice. After this traumatic experience, Katrina Martin and her family decided to fight back. They filed a lawsuit against the FBI under something called the Federal Tort Claims Act, or FTCA. This law is actually pretty important. Normally, you can't just sue the government whenever you want. The government and its employees usually have immunity from lawsuits. But Congress created the FTCA specifically so that ordinary Americans could hold federal agencies accountable when their employees do something seriously wrong while on the job. It's one of the few ways regular people can actually sue the FBI, the DEA, or other federal agencies for wrongful acts. But the FTCA also has exceptions, and this is where the government tried to wiggle out of responsibility. The government's defense: we had discretion. The FBI's defense was simple but disturbing. They claimed this entire disaster fell under something called the discretionary function exception. What does that mean? Basically, the government argued that because the FBI agent used his judgment to plan the raid however he wanted, including using his personal GPS and choosing not to verify the address, all of those decisions were discretionary. And discretionary decisions, according to the government, can't be challenged in court. Think about what they're really saying. Our agent had the freedom to plan this operation any way he chose. He chose poorly. He got the wrong house. But because he was making judgment calls, you can't sue us for the consequences. The district court heard the case first. They sided with the FBI and dismissed the family's lawsuit. The Martin family appealed to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. Surely a higher court would see how absurd this was, right? Wrong. The 11th Circuit also ruled in favor of the FBI. They agreed that since the lead agent had discretion in how he prepared for the raid, that was enough to block the family's lawsuit from moving forward. The message was clear. The government could terrorize innocent people through massive incompetence, and there was nothing those people could do about it. The Supreme Court steps in. The Martin family refused to give up. They took their case all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. And something remarkable happened. In a 9-0 unanimous decision, every single Supreme Court justice agreed. The government was wrong. Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote the opinion for the court. The Supreme Court made several crucial points. First, they clarified how the FTCA exceptions actually work. The FBI had been claiming that one exception could override all the others in a way that gave them almost unlimited immunity. The Supreme Court said no, that's not how the law works. Second, and most importantly, they sent the case back to the 11th Circuit with clear instructions. Review this case again and properly determine whether the discretionary function exception actually applies here. The Supreme Court essentially told the lower courts, you got this wrong. Do it again and do it right this time. What happens next? After the Supreme Court's ruling, the case went back to the 11th Circuit. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? The highest court in the land spoke unanimously, but the Department of Justice isn't giving up. They filed a new response arguing that the 11th Circuit should rule the exact same way as before, despite the Supreme Court's decision. The government is still claiming that the agent's mistaken entry into the wrong home resulted from discretionary decisions about how to conduct pre-dawn surveillance, how to approach in the dark, how to navigate without alerting suspects, and how to identify the building. They're still arguing that basic incompetence should be immune from accountability as long as it happens during discretionary planning. The 11th Circuit has now scheduled oral arguments for the week of March 23rd. Soon, we'll find out whether the appeals court will finally hold the government accountable or find another way to let them off the hook. Why gun owners should care. You might be wondering, what does this have to do with gun rights? Why should Second Amendment supporters pay attention? The answer is simple and terrifying. Wrong house raids happen to law-abiding gun owners all the time. Think about it. You're a legal gun owner. You have firearms in your home for self-defense. It's your constitutional right. Then, in the middle of the night, your door explodes. Armed strangers storm in, shouting. Your first instinct might be to defend yourself and your family. But these strangers are federal agents who got the wrong address. Now you're in a deadly situation. If you defend yourself, you might hurt or kill a federal agent, even though you had no way of knowing who they were. If you don't defend yourself quickly enough, they might shoot you because they see you reaching for a weapon. We've seen this tragic scenario play out multiple times. Law-abiding gun owners caught in wrong house raids. Sometimes the homeowner dies. Sometimes the agents die. Sometimes both. And if the government can hide behind discretion every single time they make a catastrophic mistake, there's zero accountability. No consequences. No incentive to be more careful next time. What this case really means. The Martin case is about more than one family's nightmare. It's about whether the government can act with reckless incompetence and then hide behind legal immunity. It's about whether federal agents need to take basic precautions before they smash down doors and throw grenades into homes. It's about whether American citizens have any recourse when the very government that's supposed to protect them violates their rights through sheer negligence. The Supreme Court's unanimous ruling is a critical first step. It narrows the government's ability to claim broad immunity whenever something goes wrong. It reinforces that federal agencies and their agents can and should be held accountable when they recklessly invade someone's home or abuse their power. But the fight isn't over. The 11th Circuit still needs to make the right decision. The Department of Justice is still fighting to avoid accountability. The bottom line, this case matters because it's about fundamental fairness. It's about the principle that no one, not even the most powerful federal agencies, is above the law. If the government can terrorize innocent families through incompetence and face no consequences, what does that say about our justice system? What does it say about our constitutional rights? The Martin family's experience was a nightmare that never should have happened. But it did happen. And now they're fighting to make sure it's harder for it to happen to anyone else. When the 11th Circuit hears arguments in March, they'll be deciding more than just one family's case. They'll be deciding whether government agents need to be careful when they wield their enormous power or whether discretion means they can do whatever they want without fear of accountability. Every American should be watching this case closely, because next time, it could be your door they break down by mistake. And you deserve the right to hold them accountable when they get it wrong. Justice isn't just for some Americans. It's for all of us, even when we're facing the most powerful government agencies in the world. That's what the Supreme Court recognized. Now we wait to see if the 11th Circuit will too.